BASIC, Fortran, Pascal, COBOL, C, C++, C++, C Sharp, HTML, Java, Python. What do they all have in common? They're all programming languages or scripting languages. They're all ways of interacting with our computer and getting our computer to do things for us. And another thing that they all have in common is they're often all taught the same way. You learn different components of these languages. Usually it starts with a screen output like hello world. And then you learn different building blocks. You'll probably look at how we can do input. Then you'll look at how you can have different variables within the programming language. You'll look at logical constructs, decision trees, such as if, then, else statements, looping, for loops, and while loops. And then you'll start doing more advanced things with the languages. But the thing is, you're expected to take all these pieces and then build something with the individual pieces. We don't need to do that anymore, and in this video, I'll show you how we can have an entirely new paradigm for how we learn computer programming that, in my opinion, makes it easier, more fun, and you learn it more effectively. Hey everyone, my name is Frank, and I have a master's degree in learning and technology. Here on this channel, we look at how we can use technology to learn, teach, and be more productive. So what is it that I'm getting at when I talk about a new way of learning programming languages? And should we even bother to learn programming? Well, I'm going to be completely biased. Some of the early languages I mentioned, like BASIC and Fortran and Pascal and COBOL, that's where I began working with computers, and so I have a lot of nostalgia for learning how to program. I think it's a fantastic skill because it gives you a lot of power over how your computer behaves, and you can do some pretty cool things with it. But sometimes I remember when I was younger that I always thought, why am I learning these pieces and how do I put them together? I sort of draw the analogy between a Lego set. If you just had a bunch of Lego, you could play with it and you could get used to playing with it and probably build something really cool. But wouldn't it be good to learn how to build specific things with Lego? Learn how to build a little police car, learn how to build a little fire truck, and then start modifying those things, putting wings on the fire truck, whatever the case may be. Sometimes seeing the entire picture before you see the parts of the picture makes it easier to understand how to do something. We do this in business with case studies. We do this in many different areas, but in computer programming, we still follow that. Start with the basics and build up the building blocks, and then maybe if you're lucky, at the end you can create a program. But can we do it a different way? And the answer is absolutely. Because in today's world, we can use AI. We can use artificial intelligence to help us write programs. And not just how to assemble the building blocks, we can use AI to give us a complete program that we can then deconstruct. So instead of looking at building blocks and constructing a program, we can write a program that highlights certain elements, explains those elements, we can see how they're incorporated into a program, and then we can learn how to write all types of programs and modify programs. When speaking of AI, the sponsor of this video, Venice AI, is one of my favorite platforms for doing coding. Venice is an uncensored and private AI service, so you can choose from multiple models. Your identity is kept secret, so it's not keeping track of all your personal information. And when it comes to being uncensored and programming, if I'm doing any type of cybersecurity work, if I'm doing penetration testing, if I'm doing any type of work where I might need to write some code that is potentially malicious or code that allows me to test security parameters, Venice AI won't restrict me from writing that type of code. Now you do have to be careful, obviously, if you're writing that type of code, and that's a little bit more advanced. But having an AI system that allows me to be private and have uncensored access to information makes a lot of sense, especially when I'm trying to protect my identity and my data, and when I'm trying to write programs that maybe require a little bit more uncensored ability so that I can do things like cybersecurity and protect systems. In this video, all my demonstrations will be done using the Venice AI platform, so you'll see how it behaves. So here I am in my platform of choice. I'm using Venice AI, and with Venice AI, I can go in and I can choose different models. So in this case, I'm going to choose Venice Large. It's part of the Pro subscription, so I have the Pro subscription, and it's really great for coding. So when I choose that model, what I can do is instead of going in and say, how do I put hello world on the screen, I'll go through and think about what do I want to do with a program. And it's usually best to ask the AI to basically teach me the different aspects through a demonstration of a program. So for example, let's say I was learning Python. I could go into Venice AI and I could say something like this. Now I paused the video here so you didn't have to see my typing, but I asked it to write me a basic Python program to get me started on learning how to program in Python, show me some basic coding, explain each element of that code with comments in the program, and that it's going to be a text-based adventure game based upon Dungeons and Dragons, and it should be a little bit funny, a little humorous. So now when I push this into the AI, it's going to go in and it's going to actually generate an entire Python program. And I'll be able to see through the comments what's happening in that program. I think this is a lot more fun and a lot more interesting than learning how to put hello world on the screen. Although I do think everybody should put hello world on the screen just as an homage to all the programmers in the world. But you can see here that I've got this little program here. It's got comments in here. It's got the entire program here. And what's really interesting is that I can now take this program. It's still writing the program, but once it's completed, we can bring this into a Python interpreter and see what happens. Now, just before I do that, it's also going through and explaining the key concepts, the humor elements, and all of the things that it's doing. This is going to really help me understand exactly what's going on. And if I wanted to, I could ask it to simplify further, or I can ask it to become a little bit more advanced as well. So here I've taken the code that was generated with Venice AI, and I've put it into my favorite IDE, Integrated Development Environment. In my case, it's PyCharm by JetBrains. It's one of my favorite IDEs, but whatever Python IDE you're using will work. And you can see I've got now this coded Python code. I've got the Python code in there. The IDE is color coding the comments. It's color coding the keywords and such. But what's really important is that this is a fairly big program, but I can understand it because I've got the comments, and I can understand it because I know what it was that I described to have Venice AI create for me. And now, of course, I can go into this program. I can read through this program to get an understanding of what it's doing. And what's even better is I can play a game in order to understand how to program in Python. All I need to do is run this program, and then when the program runs, you can see here, it's going to go through the script, and I can now play the game and understand Python programming. Learning how to program a computer remains a valuable skill. As you develop your computer programming skills, you'll be able to do more and more with your computers, and Python's a great example of a language that's great for data manipulation and data analysis. But now learning a computer program doesn't have to be challenging or difficult or boring. You can have AI help you with the process by building complete little programs that you can learn from. Programs that are on subjects you're interested in. So that text-based game could have been a spy, a murder mystery, whatever the case may be. You get to decide. And you could ask Venice AI more questions about the program that it wrote. You could say, could you focus a little bit more on variables? Could you focus a little bit more on storing data? Could you focus a little bit more on things like the if-then statements? And it'll build that program with your input, and you can read that code like you would read a book and become more and more familiar with the language, not by having a bunch of discrete little pieces that you have to try to fit together, but by building something that's interesting and deconstructing it to gain understanding of the components. There's a whole new way to learn computer programming, and I hope this video has inspired you to go out and try some of these things yourself. If it did, comment down below, hit the like button, and what are your thoughts on using AI to build programs and deconstructing them instead of learning the traditional way of building up little pieces into something? I think both methods have value. I obviously learned the old way because AI wasn't around. That was science fiction. There was 2001: A Space Odyssey with HAL, but it was science fiction. Now that we have AI, we can actually use it for cool things like this. I really enjoy learning how to do things with AI this way, and let me know below if you also think this is interesting. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.